It's 9:52 a.m. Saturday morning. I'm standing in a well-lit room in Brooklyn, New York, staring into the eyes of a woman I just met. And I'm anxious. I'm anxious because in exactly 3.2 seconds, I'm going to confess everything I feel ashamed of. And to be honest with you, it's not exactly what I thought I was going to be doing when I signed up for a BDSM workshop. BDSM stands for bondage, dominance, think 50 Shades of Grey. So what exactly did I think I was going to be doing? I didn't know. I'd never been to a BDSM workshop. Something with whips, handcuffs, but definitely not deep confessions of shame. Hi, I'm Persimmon, and I started exploring sex because I wasn't having any. Zero, zilch, nada. I mean, I was in the middle of a sex-mageddon. It was a coitus catastrophe. I might as well have called it quits and joined a nunnery. That's how bad things were for me. For most of my life, I believed that passionate sex was about logistics. Knowing the exact right moves and the best positions. I mean, come on. I read Cosmo. And because I believed this, I believed that everyone was having more, better, crazier sex than me. So 2 years ago, I went on a quest to redefine my relationship with sex. And I want to share with you some of the things I learned and how I went from celibate to celibate. That's so silly. That's so silly. I thought it was a great line in my head, but it's so silly out loud. That happens sometimes when you're in front of an audience. But before I tell you what I learned, you have to understand where I was coming from. Why would anybody go on this kind of journey at all? So let's start with the facts. 1, at 30, I had never been in a relationship longer than 6 weeks. 2, by my 30th birthday, I hadn't had sex in 5 years, 6 months, 3 days, and 2.5 hours. Not that I was counting, because that would be a totally weird thing to do. 3, I had never tried anything crazy. 4, prior to that, I had had sex with exactly 2 people 11 times in total. So I'm 30 years old, I've had sex 11 times in total. 5, that's a lot. That's already a lot. Why are you looking for more? That's a lot. That's a lot. I had a lot of baggage. I had more baggage than they lost last year at Delta, and that is a lot. Believe me, that is a lot. So I had to do something. Because I was so inexperienced with both sex and relationships, coupled with the fact that I was overweight most of my life and I looked like George Costanza, that's true, I had deep insecurity around sex. And I developed a pattern of behavior where I pushed people away. And I rejected them before they could reject me. And I had to do something about it because I wanted to be in a healthy and intimate relationship. I wanted to fall in love. And I couldn't do that unless I fixed my relationship with sex. So I'm no sexpert. I don't have a degree in psychology. But over the last 2 years, I learned a few things about how to have amazing sex. So would you like to learn some tips, tricks, and positions for how you too can be an amazing lover? Thank you. There's one rowdy group in the back. I heard you. Thank you. Thank you for that. The first thing I learned is that great sex is not about tips, tricks, and positions, like I had thought. So if it's not about that, then what is it about? What is great sex about? That one rowdy group in the back is like, tell us, tell us. There were 3 things that I learned that fundamentally helped me redefine my relationship with sex. And that's what I want to share with you. So let's start with number 1. I had to learn to get comfortable with vulnerability. I had to get comfortable with vulnerability. I was very good at being vulnerable in my writing and very bad at being vulnerable in my relationships. My instinct was protect, protect, protect. So my first experience with vulnerability was actually at the BDSM class, which, disclaimer, is not the best place to start if you're a beginner. And I was actually only at because it was free and in my neighborhood, and I had to start somewhere. So why not? So remember, I'm in a well-lit room in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm staring into the eyes of a woman I just met. And the assignment is to confess everything I feel ashamed of. And I'm standing there and I'm incapable of speaking because that's how much shame I have. And I turn and I look at her and tears start pooling in my eyes. And when I go to speak, it comes out as a whisper. And I say that I'm ashamed that I haven't had sex in that long, and I'm ashamed of my body, and a whole slew of other things I didn't even know I was ashamed of that was rotting and festering inside of me. And I'm walking back to my seat, and I'm completely gutted. And I remember, and I'll never forget this, our instructor says, "And that's what great sex is about." And I'm like, what? And he says, it's about the ability to be that vulnerable with your partner. It's about the ability to create space where someone feels that safe. I mean, sex isn't about positions and tricks. Sex is about vulnerability. In that one sentence, he challenged every preconceived notion I had about sex. And I realized that my instinct to protect was actually creating barriers between me and my partners. Number 2, I had to get comfortable with exploring. I had to be open to exploring, because here's the thing, you don't know what you don't know. You might be into something you ain't never even heard of. It's like uncomfortable laughs from the people with their families. I get it, it's totally fine. It's totally okay, I get it. You can watch it later on YouTube and laugh for yourself, I get it. You don't know what you don't know. I did a lot of weird things in the name of research. I did. I explored the tickling fetish. I tried platonic cuddling, let that sink in for a second. I remember the first time I licked a man's foot. Curiously, tentatively, cautiously, just to see what would happen. And when his entire body convulsed in pleasure, I thought, okay. Yeah, that's a thing. Cool. Might try that again. So you don't know what you don't know. If you have no idea where to start, may I recommend a yes, no, maybe list. It's simply a list that you fill it out, your partner fills it out, you exchange lists. There's one on my website, which is justmyname.com, or Google it, I don't care. But be open to exploring, because you don't know what you don't know. And the third thing I learned, and the most important thing, was I had to stop trying to have passionate sex, and I had to start having honest conversations. I believed that sex was about mechanics and logistics. And because I was so inexperienced, I believed that must mean I was a bad lover. I met Simon 8 months into my journey, and he was honest, funny, kind. Our first date lasted 6 hours. It was a picnic in the park, and when I sat down and tried to describe the experience of kissing him, the only word that I could think of was exquisite, and I had to look up the spelling because I'd never once, not in my entire life, used it to describe anything. We broke the dry spell on a balmy night in July, and to be honest, it wasn't great. But it wasn't great, not because we had failed at the logistics. It wasn't great because we were bathing in insecurity. So we're lying there, we're not touching or talking to each other, and with all the bravery I could muster, I roll over and I say, I'm really in my head, and I'm worried that was bad. And he rolls over and he strokes my face and he says, great sex isn't about being good or bad. It's about connection. And I'm crazy about you. And then we tried again, and it was much better. Because we had communicated honestly. Because we weren't having insecure dialogues with ourselves. So communicate honestly, both about your insecurity, but also about your desire. Into feet? Cool. Say something. Want to get tied up? Cool. Say something. Your partner hasn't found this spot on your body that makes you feel great. That's okay. Say something. Communicate honestly. So to conclude, I started exploring sex because I wasn't having any, as a last-ditch effort to save my love life. When I started out, I thought that great, passionate sex was about logistics and tips and tricks and positions. And what I learned is that great sex is about vulnerability, openness to explore, and communication. So exploring sex changed my life. Can it change yours? Thank you.